everyone, thanks for listening to the Pain and Panic Trip Planning Podcast. My name is Haley Ragsdale, and I am here solo tonight. I got back from my Disney trip yesterday, so I'm recording this on Thursday, and it usually releases on Friday, and I didn't get home till yesterday, so with me being gone on my trip, and then with Owen's work schedule, it just wasn't super likely we were going to be able to record this week. So I'm just going to hop in here, do a quick podcast for you all. There has been some big news that got released with D23 this past weekend, and then kind of give you guys some highlights from my trip. I mainly went down there for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Food and Wine. So Owen and I will dive a little bit deeper into both of those next week when we're able to do a longer podcast recording together. But for now, I'm just going to kind of talk about some of the logistical things that went into planning this trip. I did stay off property, and so I learned a lot of different things about staying off property, the perks and kind of the downfalls of it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, as well as some of the highlights of my trip, where I went, all that kind of fun stuff. So give you all a quick little recap of my trip and have you have a little bit of time where you feel like you are in Disney World, because that's our goal with this podcast, to bring a little bit of park magic, Disney magic, Universal epicness to your day-to-day commute, your jogs, your time cleaning, whenever you listen to this podcast. Before we get into it, there's a little bit of news. Like I said, D23 was this past weekend. And so they announced several important park updates for sure. So they've made more progress on the new villains themed land at Magic Kingdom. And so they have announced some of the different Disney legends and things that are consulting on the project. So that's becoming more of a substantial plan versus that like blue sky idea. Because anytime Disney says, oh, we have this blue sky idea, this is what we're going to do, there's always that chance that they're not going to follow through and it's not going to end up happening. But this gives us more of that, okay, solid backing to the project actually happening. And I will say, when I was in Florida this past weekend, I did get a chance to see the new Villains show at Hollywood Studios, and I thought it was phenomenal. I think they did great work on that show. They put a lot into it. I love shows with like live singing and live acting, and it was truly phenomenal. So I am excited to see what they do with this villains land and how they incorporate those different villains as well. They announced that they're going to be adding an audio animatronic of Walt Disney into Carousel of Progress at Magic Kingdom. So that'll be interesting to see what they do. One of the so there's two big pieces of news that have been kind of blown up on social media that came out of D23. One of them is that they're repainting Cinderella Castle with a new color palette that's inspired by the original design. So right now it's got that like pink and bluish tint. It's a little more of like those vibrant colors. I think they did that for the 50th anniversary. So it was pretty recent that they repainted the castle. Well, it's going to go back to that original color scheme, that original design that's more of that like white cream color and then the blue. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. Like, I like the pink castle. I like the original castle. I don't know that I have strong feelings, so it'll be interesting to see what they do, but I know some people have strong feelings on it, so we'll see. The big thing is that Dinosaur officially has a closing date, so it'll be closing at the beginning of February 2026. So if you want to ride Dinosaur one more time, get in your trip before February, go get on Dinosaur. I went to Animal Kingdom on Tuesday morning, so before I went to the Halloween party, and I literally had like a walk-on onto the ride. So it wasn't super busy. I was there early in the day. I wasn't there, like I didn't rope drop it, but it was still, I was able to walk right on. And I will say it was really weird being in that section of Animal Kingdom, because literally all of Dino Land USA is behind construction walls. So they have everything pretty much closed, and then there's just like a path that goes to Dinosaur. So they've started working on like the Tropical Americas area. They've put up all the construction walls. They're taking all the dinosaurs out. So, I mean, they're getting to work. Dino Land is no more, and Dinosaur will be gone as of the beginning of February, which is really sad. In terms of movies, they just announced that the feature-length film for Bluey is set to be released on August 6th, 2027, which is really exciting for me because August 6th is my birthday. So I think we will be spending my birthday seeing Bluey. And I'm not even upset about it. In terms of Universal news, nothing super new right now. Halloween Horror Nights officially opened this past weekend. And it's been really big. There's stuff all over social media. You can see there's Art the Clown. He's just like roaming the streets, and that's been like the big thing. The clown from Terrifier. Everybody's been going and wanting to get pictures with him and interact with him, and it's a fun character interaction, I think, at Halloween Horror Nights. So I've only heard great things about Halloween Horror Nights. I've heard it's terrifying as usual. I would love to go, but like I said on the last podcast, I will not go by myself. There's no way you're going to catch me there by myself. So that's it for news this week. I'm just going to go and do a quick recap about my trip. Like I said, the big things I was down there for were Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Wine and Dine. And so we'll get into more of the details with those two events next week on the podcast with Owen, because it'll be a little more fun for us to talk about back and forth kind of the different food offerings and other things like that. So I flew down Saturday. I flew through Charlotte, and I had really great flights for this trip. I didn't have super long layovers, and I didn't have any issues with any of my flights. I got in probably around noon, and then I stayed off property this go around. So I stayed at one of the Holiday Inns that was like 3 miles outside of the parks. It was nice. It was fine. It had a nice pool. It had a nice dining area, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it definitely was a step down from the Disney properties. Like, when you stay at Disney, you know you're getting Disney excellence. And you know you're safe. I never felt like unsafe where I was at, but it was definitely a tiny bit sketchier than if I had just stayed on Disney property. I think in the future I will be staying on Disney property, because in the end, I think the amount that I ended up spending on like Ubers and Lyfts and things, I probably could have just stayed on property. And so it was more of me just kind of testing it out to see what their free shuttles looked like and what it looked like to Uber back and forth from the parks and things like that. So there was a free shuttle that went to and from the parks, but it only left, like there was one time in the mornings that it left for the different parks. So like if you were going to Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios. So if you were going to Animal Kingdom, it was like it left at 7:30. If you were going to Magic Kingdom, it left at like 8:45. And if you were going to Hollywood Studios, it didn't leave until like 10 something. So it was later too. And there was only like that one time that shuttle picked up and took you to that park. There were also shuttles to the Universal parks, and same thing. It was like those were mixed in with the Disney parks. There wasn't one to Disney Springs, and there wasn't one to Epcot. So the thought behind that with Epcot was you would take the monorail. So you'd take that shuttle to the Transportation and Ticket Center, which is where that Magic Kingdom bus dropped you off. And then you'd take the monorail to Magic Kingdom, you'd take the monorail to Epcot. Because the only buses and things that can park at Magic Kingdom or can drop off at Magic Kingdom are going to be the Disney buses. The only lifts that can drop off at the front of Magic Kingdom are the minivans, which are like the Minnie Mouse themed vans that are partnered with Lyft. So either way, if I was going to Magic Kingdom, I had to get dropped off at the TTC, which isn't bad. You just take a monorail from the TTC over to Magic Kingdom. So it doesn't take long at all. But there was only the one drop off time in the mornings for those parks, and then there was only two pickup times, and it differed depending on the park. And so you could get picked up at like 4 or 5, depending on which park you were going to. And then it wasn't until like 11 or something for that second pickup. And so I did take the shuttle in the morning a couple times there, but then I never took it back because it was harder to find on the way back, and with you having to be there or having to leave at a certain time, I was just like, I'd rather just pay $10 for a lift and leave when I want to leave. um so that's kind of what I did there. And so when it came down to it, I was using Uber first. And so when I was using Uber first, a lot of the things were more expensive. And I was like, this just seems odd. Like, I don't understand why these Uber rides are so expensive. Well, then I remembered that Disney is partnered with Lyft. So most of the Lyft rides were a lot more affordable and in that like $10 price range. So, pro tip, if you're using a rideshare service while you're in Disney World, use Lyft because it's cheaper. Um, I was like super surprised when I figured that out because I just totally forgot that that was a thing. Um, and so a lot of the pickups and like heading back to the hotel, I used Lyft. And then there were a couple days where I was like, I just want to sleep in and get to the parks when I get to the parks. And so that's what I did. Um, so Saturday, I got to the airport, took an Uber to my hotel, got settled into the hotel. I was able to check in several hours early too. I didn't have any issues with that. And then I took an Uber to Disney Springs. I did a little shopping, and then I actually went to the Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar. And they have a Halloween theme for the first time this year. They do a Christmas theme usually every year, but they did Halloween this year, and they had a lot of fun drinks. I had one that was like a cauldron something or other, and it was really cute. You like poured the lemon juice into it, and it looked like a little cauldron. And then I had another one that had a like marshmallow ghost on top. It was basically like a peep, like an Easter peep or whatever that they put on top of the drink. And then they had a couple other food offerings too. It was like Nashville hot chicken sandwiches, but they made them look like little aliens. Those were super good. That's like one of the first times I've actually really liked Nashville hot chicken. And then they had a couple other things as well, like it was like mummy weenies or something, and they were little like pigs in a blanket in a coffin and other fun things like that. So definitely got me in the spooky spirit mood for the rest of my trip, and it was a good time. I got a lot of fun foods, drinks. I'm putting a lot of this, like the detailed stuff, on my TikTok. So follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and I'll be posting a lot of different TikToks and reels about more specifically a lot of these experiences. So the different food offerings at a lot of the different places and things like that. Um, then Sunday, I went to Hollywood Studios. I spent the day at Hollywood Studios. I saw the Villains show, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, and it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I think it's a phenomenal show. I was able to get on Rock and Roller Coaster. I did the single rider line just kind of to test it out, and it was honestly the exact same wait time as the posted standby queue. So it didn't save me any time being in the single rider line. Um, so if you want to risk it, go for it. The nice thing about standby is usually they're pretty accurate with the standbys. If anything, you're going to get up there faster. Single rider line, there's no guarantee for that because they really don't know. So that's something to keep in mind. Risk it, you might get up there faster, or risk it and you're, up there the same amount of time or longer. What else did I do? I did a good bit of walking around, shopping. Oh, I rode Star Tours. This was a magical moment for me. I got in line for Star Tours, and it was a walk-on. It was a 5-minute wait, posted wait time. And I walked right up there, and then got sent down to a queue, and they were like, well, I guess it's just you. So I rode Star Tours all by myself, and it was awesome. I was like living my best life. That's the first time I've ever been the spy on Star Tours, and it was phenomenal. I was so excited when I stepped off that ride, and it was all like the new movies too, which normally I'm like, oh, this is lame. Like, I want prequels or originals. And it was like all from 7, 8, and 9. But I was like, oh, I felt like I was just flying around with C3PO. So it was super cool. I tried the tune-up lounge for the first time. I had the PB&J drink, and it was actually really good. But it was weird too because it actually tasted like a PB&J, and I was like, this is a drink. I don't know how I feel about this, but I really liked it. It was really tasty, and it was, I mean, it was literally like drinking a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a cocktail. It was crazy. Um, and then I also checked out Baseline Tap House for the first time. And I had their like salt and vinegar chips and nacho cheese, and it was delicious. Like, I've never thought, oh, I want to dip my salt and vinegar chip in cheese. Like, it was like a beer cheese. Um, but I was pleasantly surprised. That was absolutely delicious. And they have a lot of beers on tap. I want to say they had like a margarita too. But I got the little beer flight. It was super good. It was like the break that I needed in that moment. I had dinner at the lounge for Brown Derby, and it was nice. You are sitting outside in the lounge, but I feel like you don't have as much pressure to like order a meal and things like that. Like, I could have very easily just done a drink and an appetizer and nobody would have had a problem with it. So it was nice. I got the Cobb salad per usual, because I love their Cobb salad. It's delicious and I feel like I crave it every time I go. I got my buffalo chicken grilled cheese earlier in the day, got my black calf cold brew in Galaxy's Edge. So I hit up all the foods. Rode a good bit of the rides. And then I got to Fantasmic right when they were opening the doors for Fantasmic. So I was in the second row for Fantasmic, and I sat there for an hour and a half, and then I had a grand old time during Fantasmic, which is one of those things that, like, Fantasmic is very important to me. It's like my favorite show. I love going to see it. I want to have a good view. I want to have good seats when I go see Fantasmic. But a lot of times I'm there with, my husband or my family, my brother, whoever, and they're like, Haley, I'm not wasting an hour and a half sitting at Fantasmic waiting for the show to start. So it's nice when I get to do solo trips like this because I'm like, you know what? Fantasmic is important to me, and I'm going to go sit there for an hour and a half until it starts. But it was great. I love Fantasmic. It's phenomenal. Then on Monday, I went to Epcot. So I did a lot of the Food and Wine Fest stuff. I stood in the standby line for Guardians toward the beginning of the day, and it was posted as, I think, a 50-minute wait time, and it didn't take me, and it was like 45 minutes and I was out of there, so it really wasn't bad. Considering that the standby is pretty new for Guardians, I was surprised that I was able to get in under an hour. So I honestly didn't buy Lightning Lane at all this trip, and I don't think I needed to at all. Like, I stood in standby lines and I rode everything I wanted to ride. It could be that it was, end of August, beginning of September, but it was Labor Day weekend, which is usually a little busier. So I was pretty surprised that I was able to, I walked on to several things as well. So really, the wait times this weekend were not bad at all. But Guardians was able to get on no problem. I walked right onto Soarin', Living with the Land. A lot of those rides that it can be hit or miss. I saw Mickey. So there's a place where you can go meet Mickey and friends, is what they say, because they swap out which friends it is. But I met Mickey, Pluto, and Minnie. Walked right into that and didn't have to wait a single minute to meet Mickey Mouse, which is crazy to me. A lot of people were in the countries. So I got there pretty early. Food and Wine Fest, the park opens I think at 9, but Food and Wine Fest, the booths and things don't open until 11. So at like 10:15, I started walking the countries just to get a feel of like what all they had, see what food, what drink I wanted to make sure that I tried. Um, and I mean, I met two, three princesses. I saw Aurora, but I didn't meet her. I met Belle and I met Snow White, all while I was walking the countries before Food and Wine even opened. And I mean, they were empty. It was like a ghost town. Like there was a couple people here and there, but there was really nobody there. So I was able to, do a little shopping, check on things, like kind of see what I was wanting and all that kind of stuff before I really got into Food and Wine. And that was awesome. I felt like that I won at life when I did that. Um, like I said, I'll get into more of the detailed food and drinks that like I was really interested in and ones that I was like, I'm gonna have to pass. There was a lot of hearty things on the menu, like a lot of soups and steaks, and I was like in the Florida heat right now. That is the last thing I want. Um, so that was kind of interesting. Toward the end, I kind of stopped going to the Food and Wine booths and was going into places and getting like food I knew I liked and drinks I knew I liked. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a great day at Epcot. I went back pretty early because I knew that the next day was going to be pretty long. And so the next day on Tuesday, I started out at Animal Kingdom and then I kind of resort hopped the rest of the day and then finished with Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. So at Animal Kingdom, I wanted to get on Dinosaur, so I got on Dinosaur, and then one of my old students, my little sister's best friend, and she's also one of Lucas's babysitters, is in the college program. So she's been driving the safari trucks, and she texted me. I was like, hey, if you're here today, I'm this truck number. Let them know you have a show request and you want to get on my truck and just, wait in the standby queue and then let them know at the front. And so I was like, okay, that sounds awesome. So I got up to the front and I told them, like, hey, my friend's on truck 32. I think she was 32, Safari 32 or whatever. And is it okay if I like wait for her to come up? And they were like, oh yeah, for sure. Like you've got like a show request is what they call it. And so I just stood up there and the trucks kept going by and they kind of kept that first lane open in the safari truck for me, just in case it was her truck. And so then I could just jump on her truck. Well, all of a sudden, everybody, like the crowd just thinned out. There was nobody in my loading area. And they were like, how cool would it be if you were solo? And I was like, I mean, that would be pretty awesome. And then all of a sudden, here comes Caroline's truck and she parks it. And they're like, well, go ahead. And so it was me and Caroline were the only two people on the truck. So I got my own private safari tour and it was awesome. It was like one of those magical moments where you're like, is this really going to happen? Is this really going to happen? And so that was a lot of fun because I not only got to like catch up with her, but she shared some kind of like behind the scenes things and I was able to ask her like, oh, well, how long did you have to like memorize these facts? And she had to have a certain number of facts memorized for each animal within like a week's time and things. Like I was able to ask her about her trainings and things like that. So I do think once she finishes her college program, she's going to come on the podcast and kind of tell us about her experience in the college program and driving the safari trucks and the animals and all that kind of fun stuff. So I think that's going to be awesome. Can't wait to have her on. Caroline, if you're listening to this, we can't wait to have you. It's going to be a lot of fun. But that was one of those magical moments for me. So I did that. I rode the safari truck and rode Dinosaur, and then I actually was able to ride Yeti twice. So Everest was a walk-on when I went up there, and I was able to get on it twice. Like I said, the like crowds and things, it was so strange. Like there would be, like at this point in time, Yeti's a 5-minute wait and 120 minutes at Flight of Passage. So it was just weird where the crowds were and things like that. But I didn't stay there super long. And then I actually took a bus to Caribbean Beach. I took a bus over to Caribbean Beach because I wanted to ride the Skyliner because I hadn't ridden the Skyliner. I know, sounds real lame, but like the Skyliner is one of my favorite rides. So I took a bus over to Caribbean Beach, grabbed a coffee at that Joffrey stand, and then rode the Skyliner. And I took it to the boardwalk, walked around the boardwalk a little bit just because I love the boardwalk. And then took a bus from Yacht and Beach over to Magic Kingdom, and then hopped on the monorail. Oh, y'all are like, why did you do so much work here, Haley? And I was like, well, I wanted to ride the monorail. I wanted to ride the Skyliner. I didn't mind the buses. I was just trying to kill a little bit of time before the Halloween party because I didn't want to pay for a lift to go back to my hotel. So I was kind of trying to relax before the Halloween party, but also stay in the Disney bubble, keep that Disney hype up. So went over to the Poly, and I had lunch at Kona Cafe, and it was really good. I had a little beer flight thing, and then I had, oh, what are they called? It looked like a big fried pancake, but it was, not wontons. Oh, the name has escaped me, but they were delicious, and they had like a shrimp sauce kind of thing on the side with soy, or like with a teriyaki sauce. That's what it was. And it was delicious, and I loved it. And then I had the steak salad. Their steak is phenomenal, and that salad was incredible. So that was exactly the meal that I needed. I sat there for a little bit, kind of killed time. And then I went over to the Grand Floridian and just walked around the Grand Floridian because that property is just gorgeous. They're doing a good bit of construction, especially in the lobby. And so I was like, I love the little guy that plays piano in the lobby, and I think it's such a relaxing atmosphere. But with the construction that was going on in the lobby, it was like the guy's playing piano, and then all of a sudden you hear a drill, and you're like, this just ruins the entire atmosphere of the Grand Floridian. And I wasn't staying there, so I wasn't really mad about it. But if I had been staying there, and if I had paid to stay at the Grand Floridian, and then that happened, I would have been livid. So it was interesting. Around 3:30, I hopped on the monorail and headed back over to the Magic Kingdom. So at 4 o'clock is when they say if you have a party ticket, you can get into the Magic Kingdom. So you don't have to have like park admission for that day. If you have a party ticket, you can get into the park at 4. So they started ushering us through I probably got over there like right around 3:40. They started ushering us through the ticket area. Around 3:45, they started moving people through. And then probably 3:55, they started letting folks into the actual park. So on your way in, they gave you a wristband that showed you were there for Mickey's Not So Scary. And then they ushered you in, and you went kind of in the park on that right entrance. But then they skirted you off to the side on the right, and you kind of went into that backstage area. And that's where you would get your Mickey's Not So Scary, like little tote bag for your trick-or-treating if you were going to go trick-or-treating in the park. And then they had a couple other things back there as well, like statues and a couple other fun things like that for you to look at. Then what all did I do? I think I realized, so they let you into the park at 4, but the party doesn't actually start until 7. So in my head, I was like, well, I'll get there at 4, and then I'll still like be able to do some things in Magic Kingdom. Well, in that 4 to 7 time frame, it was really busy, right? Because you had all the regular park goers and you still had all the party goers. And then they like shut things down from like 6 to 7 because they're trying to get the regular park goers out of the park so they can proceed on with the like party things. And so they have to like make sure that nobody who's not there for the party is like getting any of the like party food or things like that. So it's almost like everything just like shut down for an hour while they were trying to get people out. It was very strange, like how they did it, and kind of frustrating because I was like, I'm hungry at this point. y'all told me you'd be serving at 6:30, and like all of the times kept changing. Like one cast member would say, "Oh, we're gonna start serving at 6." And then the next one was like, "Oh, it's gonna be 6:30." And then the next one was like, "Oh, well, it's whenever they put the sign up." And I was like, when are things happening? Like I've walked around this park like 6 times because y'all keep telling me the wrong times. Um, so it was just kind of frustrating. But I did ride Tron in that time frame. So I kind of checked that off my list, which that ride's fantastic. It's just so short that when you have to wait for more than, I think I waited for 45 minutes, so it wasn't bad. But if you have to wait more than 45 minutes, it's like, why did I just spend all that time waiting for that ride when it's just going to be, not even 30 seconds? But it is a phenomenal ride. The theming's great. It's a fun coaster. It's just really short. So then I walked around, took some pictures and things. I really didn't do much until 7, and then got some of the different snacks and things, which I'll talk about more with Owen because that was something he was like really excited about. I did end up getting a Beacon Barrel reservation, so that was really exciting, and I really loved the Beacon Barrel. If you don't know, that's the new bar at Magic Kingdom that's Pirates of the Caribbean themed. And it's kind of hidden. Like it's right in between the Pirates of the Caribbean ride entrance and the gift shop. So it's kind of hidden there, and I thought that was really cool how they did hide it, because it kind of goes with the storyline and the atmosphere. It's almost like a combination between Oga's Cantina and Trader Sam's. So it's got more of the like theming of Trader Sam's, and there's lots of effects and things that happen while you're there. But the way it's set up made me feel more like Oga's. So you have 45 minutes when you go in, like get in there. You have 45 minutes in there, and then you're able to order 2 drinks and then any of the foods that you'd want to order. And I'll talk more in detail about the different drinks and things that I got next week with Owen, but that's kind of the gist of how it was set up. I thought it was great. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's set up like Oga's where you can be seated with other people. So I was seated at like a big table, and I was actually standing. So they have kind of like bar space, and then they do have some seated spaces. But I was standing at like a big table with a couple other people, and I was lucky that the people I sat with were super fun, and we had a great time. So that was the Beacon Barrel. I will say, I think that with Mickey's Not So Scary, you need to go into it knowing that you're not going to be able to do everything and deciding which thing is important to you. Like if you really want to experience the Halloween things, right? Like the shows and the parade and all that kind of stuff, that needs to be your main focus. If you want to experience shorter ride times, like shorter standby lines and things like that, focus on that. If you want to do the treat trail, focus on that. Because I was trying to do a lot of different things, and I think that's where some of my frustration came into play, because I couldn't really plan for it, and so I was just like running around trying to get things done if I could. I did end up watching Booty You both times. The 8 o'clock time, I like went to go try and find a seat or somewhere to like watch it from like an hour before. Couldn't find it anywhere. And I was like, well, I'll just go ride some rides and then see if I can just like stand behind some people. I was like 5, 6 rows back, like could not see anything, was using my phone to try and record it so I could see it, and it was just a hot mess. I will say for the 11 o'clock one, I was able to kind of like squeeze in next to some people about 30 minutes before, and I just sat on the edge near them, and then I had a great view for the second parade. So I do think you kind of have to camp out for Booty You if you want to be able to see it, especially if you have kids. Because I did hear several people, especially in that first parade, they were like, well, the kids can't see. And it was kind of like, well, yeah, you kind of have to camp out for these things now, which I don't necessarily agree with, but that's kind of just how it is. It was easier, like I said, for me the second go around because I think a lot of people had left, but yeah, that first go around, especially that 8 o'clock one, it was packed. There was no way to get up there unless you'd been camped out pretty much since the party started. Um, but it's a great parade and I love it. So I was like, oh, I'll just sit here for 30 minutes before the 11 o'clock and make sure I have a spot. Ride times were way down. Like standby lines and things were way down. I was able to ride so much during that time frame. I actually got on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which I haven't ridden since it opened because the standby queue is always so ridiculously long, and I was able to get on it in 35 minutes, which was awesome. Space Mountain, basically a walk up for me, which was pretty cool. I rode Tiana's for the first time, which I liked. I'll go into detail with Owen though. Not a huge fan of the storyline. There's not really a villain in it. But in all, it was a great trip. I had a great time at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. I'm glad that I didn't try to go with my family and it was just me because now I have a better lay of the land. I'll share more of my tips and things next week with Owen on the podcast, but I just wanted to give you all kind of a quick overview of my trip. If there are specific things you want Owen and I to dive into more next week, or you want us to get into any tips, things that you're like, hey, Haley, I've been thinking about going down for this. Well, what do you think about whatever it is? Feel free to ask any questions. I'll bring them up on the podcast next week with Owen. But in all, it was a great trip. If you're looking to plan a Disney vacation, let me know. If you're trying to get down there for Mickey's Not So Scary, there are still some tickets available. And then Halloween Horror Nights, people have been raving about it. It's been a blast. So if you're a horror movie person and you want to get out there for Halloween Horror Nights, let me know. I can help you with that too. The Christmas party tickets are also on sale. So Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party is also on sale right now. So if you're trying to go down for Christmas, let me know. Let's go ahead and get you booked. There's been some great cruise deals as well around that time. There's like 50% off kids or something crazy. There's like a big crazy cruise deal as well. So let me know. I'd be happy to help you plan your next Disney vacation or Universal vacation. My email is haley.ragsdale@academytravel.com. Follow me on socials, Haley Ragsdale Travel. That's where I'm going to be sharing a lot of more of the in-depth stuff in terms of different foods I tried, drinks I tried, my wait times, different ride experiences, things like that are all going to be on social media. So follow me at Haley Ragsdale Travel. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you have. Let Owen and I know if there's anything specific you'd like us to dive into next week. But until next time, bye-bye.